All right, so Martha Adams, author of Cleopatra's Riches. Martha, I love learning about. So You're referred by Sarah, I believe her business is Serotonin, Sarah Tibet. And when I looked at your LinkedIn, Martha, three words stood out: engaging, passionate, and I think I added this third one, which is that I think you're a wordsmith, based on listening to your book. You're also a wife, a mother. I know you're a proud daughter, um, a young entrepreneur, a financial advisor, a talk show guest. You live outside of Toronto, Canada. You have Egyptian descent, and you're actually a direct descent of Cleopatra.
We'll get to that.
Yep. Wrote Cleopatra's Riches, and your work has been really interesting to me. I'm really grateful to have read your book and to welcome a new financial conversation. So thank you for joining us today, Martha.
I'm so grateful to be welcomed. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So where I'd like to start, actually, I have an intention here, which I think will be pretty powerful. My intention is, if we were to practice something and associate it with either jumping in the shower or having our morning coffee, and we had 10 minutes to practice a daily routine or a few daily routines, what would those be? Because your role is to help us. How I received it is to rethink how we think about, or how we emotionalize money or our financial situation. So that takes time, that takes practice. That's why you have the book club. That's why you have your quizzes. That's why you are consistent on talk shows. So what's something we could do in 10 minutes through a morning or nighttime routine that could help us emotionalize money in a different way over time?
That's a really beautiful question. It starts and continues with the way we see ourselves. The key there is to see ourselves. When we talk about money in any form, whether that's the money we bring into our system by earning, how we manage and grow that money through investing in different forms, right? Or the way we enjoy our lives or don't enjoy our lives, right? It's the way we see or don't see ourselves, right? It's based on everything and anything else. That takes control. So where do we start? We start by actually connecting with ourselves. What's a way we can do that? The first thing is our own mantra. Now that's going to morph and change over time, right? With the different seasons. Having that mantra is the first thing. The next thing is, the way we feel as we speak that mantra. So we talked about the power of words. Why am I such a fan of words? Well, I say a word and you immediately feel something. Do you agree?
Yes.
So if I say the word debt, how do you feel?
Stressed.
Stressed. If I say the word prosperity, how do you feel?
Unlimited.
So the words we use immediately connect us with the way that we feel. The way that we feel, that's our entryway into who we are, where we've come from, and truly learning about ourselves, right? So the mantra is going to help you bring up the difference in the words that you want to use versus the words you're using, right? And you can connect with where that's coming from. Now, so much of the financial conversation focuses on what we don't want, right? I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to run out of money at the end of the month. I don't want to be house poor. I don't want, right? I don't want to be in a job or that I don't like, or a failing business, or right? All of these negative societal messages, and it's even more than societal, right? It could be from our households, from our communities, all piled up from our relationships, right? All focused on what we don't want. So visualizing and saying in the space of what you want allows you to live in the feeling of that, right?
Yeah. What is a Martha Adams mantra?
One of my favorites is one that I created with the goal to make a difference in many regards. Here it is. I give myself the grace of understanding with the commitment to move forward. Why is it my favorite? I want to share why it's my favorite. Every element of that statement is active and filled with positive emotional responses. So I'm starting by giving myself, there's a command to myself. Now, what is it that I'm giving myself? Grace. How does the word grace feel? Right? We're moving from a conversation that's so focused on judgment, ridicule, negativity, and into a space of grace. Now, what kind of grace do I have? It's not just, sitting around feeling badly for myself or sad for myself. No, I'm active here. I'm giving myself the grace of understanding. So I'm getting to know myself, right? Now, again, I'm not just staying in that space. Now it's understanding with commitment. Commitment to what? The direction I'm moving in forward. So whatever was does not have to define what is or what will be. I give myself the grace of understanding with the commitment to move forward.
The beauty is that nothing in that sentence is financial.
And yet it all is. You know why? Because money is something that is truly a human experience. So if you think of any event in your life or circumstance of any size or significance, chances are money was there. It played a role in some way, shape, or form. And with that came your emotional associations, those connections, right? Whether it was a parent saying something, a teacher, a spouse, a community leader, right? It was that human experience, the way you felt, what you internalized. And those emotions and perspectives, right, ultimately create our reality. And so it creates the truth of the financial conversation. And that truth starts from the inside out.
So you were, well, do you have another you say mantra, I believe. Do you have another mantra?
Mantra,
Yeah.
tomato.
Do you happen to have another one, or is that the one you always go with?
No, I have many. So one that has impacted a lot of people is I have faith in my financial voice. The reason for that one is there's so much fear, scarcity, and lack when it comes to the way we approach and navigate the financial conversation. That in so many ways we are less than. someone else or some other group knows better. And it's not to say that there aren't specialists. I'm just not a particular fan of the idea of an expert when it comes to the financial conversation, because I don't believe in one that speaks down. I believe in one that speaks with. That's why the idea of a specialist, and that's why the mantra of I have faith in my financial voice, because finances isn't something that defines you, it's something that refines you, right? It amplifies your voice, it doesn't mute it.
So that would be, having a mantra would be, now you're going to be saying mantra, I'll be saying having a mantra, we'll go with that, is something we could do when we're having our morning coffee, when we're saying a nighttime prayer, when we're having a morning shower. What if I was a runner and I wanted to go on a 30-minute jog and leverage those 30 minutes every day for the next 3 weeks on improving my relationship with money? What would you say that I should do in those 30 minutes?
Improving
Or
your
listen
relationship.
to, or any, it could be, I know your book is about 3 hours, so that, I could block that off, listen to that probably 4 times over the course of 2 weeks. But yeah, if any of us have a 30-minute window to habit stack and improve the way we emotionalize money or our financial vision, what would you do in those 30 minutes that's relatively passive?
So one that I love, that I personally do, is to record myself with my vision, right? I record myself saying my vision. And I talk about it in detail. And so one thing that I've suggested when it comes to the financial conversation specifically is, we'll take the example of an entrepreneur. This particular person was a female entrepreneur, and, she would talk about herself as this, financially savvy, confident. But then when she really continued, that wasn't the case. So central to that is the way that she feels, right? So confidence at the end of the day is a feeling, right? So I had her record the woman that she was describing, right? And then the power of suggestion kicks in, right? It starts to, so it's passive. And I said, it didn't matter to me if she was on a run or, loading the dishwasher, whatever it may be, right? She was going to start to pick up certain words at certain times. Now, is that something that's separate from the boardroom? No, because she's going to be bringing that in. Her confidence is going to change. She's going to feel differently about herself. She's going to see herself differently. So that's absolutely one thing, is the recording what you see. Now, it's not just about what you see. The other thing you can record that I love to recommend is record your financial wins. Remind yourself of that. Like, we speak the negative to ourselves so much when it comes to money, right? So a relationship with money is a relationship with yourself. When you've worked and done so much for someone, like picture a friend that you were there for, right? You stood up for or stood by them and really invested that energy. How would it feel if they didn't say thank you? Just those words, right? And yet we don't say thank you to ourselves. We don't acknowledge ourselves, right? So acknowledging ourselves and reminding ourselves of those financial wins, right? Showing how we've taken that mantra and really brought it to life, right? I'd love to share an example if that's okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So this one extends from the I have faith in my financial voice. There was someone I was working with, and they were going through marriage dissolution, divorce. And so live in a great neighborhood. The one partner that I was working with viewed themselves as more financially dependent. And so thought, hey, in the area that I live, it is impossible for me to buy out my previous spouse. Now, there were children here, and there was a concern that now the children are going to be displaced, and the schooling, the friends, the life, right, was the concern, and the previous spouse was not going to be involved. And this person felt that they were not going to, there was no way in the career that they were in that they were going to be able to financially do this. Now, there was a lot of messaging on fear. I could have said every how-to. Do you think any of it would have mattered? Absolutely not. Because it's not about the how-to. It's not about financial literacy that is, you know, kind of in a lot of ways forced on us. It feels that way, right? That has nothing to do with anything. That's not going to help. What's key is that human experience, the way they were feeling, where it was coming from. Then we could address that childhood fear. We could address the community fear, the societal internalized beliefs as to where in the world this partner had a place. So by acknowledging the ideas that were accepted, we could start to reject them, right? How? We had a different mantra. That mantra brings up peak emotional state, right? Then what ends up happening? Income doubled, bought out previous spouse, knows their numbers like it isn't a thing. And they're just getting started. That's the power of a mantra applied.
Yeah. So when I asked, and this is awesome because when I asked about when I go on my 30-minute run, what can I do? And you gave two projects, two like probably 30-minute projects.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got the, 10-minute coffee time or shower time where we can associate a mantra. We've got two projects we can do to reflect on how we see money, let's say. What about like the runs? Would you just do tons of affirmations? It sounds like something that's big to you. I know environment is huge, but it sounds like another really important aspect are these affirmations.
It's huge because there's so much, you know why? One of the biggest practices I love, and it's actually central to my work, is being conscious of our unconscious. Being conscious of our unconscious. So if I'm working on the way I speak with myself, the way I see myself, then that is going to be, the ideas that I accept. When the ideas that don't serve that surface, I have a different awareness. The difference is always awareness, right? So to change your environment, you're going to change it from the inside out. And then that's going to change whether it's the people you're around. If you're an entrepreneur, the environment within your team, who you are accepting to bring on board, how you are enriching yourself and your team will all change from the way you speak and connect with yourself. So then you'll continue to do things that serve that. So that really is the biggest thing. It's a simple idea, and I promise you, it's not easy.
Did you at any point feel like the journey was super lonely? Like, why am
Always,
I
yeah.
the only one who's, thinking from this perspective?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The quick answer. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so how did I work through that? Right? How do I work through that? Is to know that it's meaningful. I was really blessed to be the kid that didn't fit in, whether it was in my household and outspoken, very focused girl that didn't fit into the success definition, right? I wasn't going to be a doctor, engineer, or a dentist or a pharmacist, or work in the government with a solid pension. None of those things were me. Or in my community, growing up in a wealthy neighborhood without the material wealth around me. All of these things, I never did fit in. So what a gift that was. Because I could then come to where I am today and lead a conversation that isn't meant to fit in.
Is there something that you would like to share with us? Like, is there something that's kind of in your heart or your mind that you think is important to share?
You are more. I have a lot of conversations with a lot of people that, and let me be clear that our relationship with money, and therefore our relationship with ourselves, does not discriminate on asset or income level. I see it at every asset and income level. And I see so much that we ultimately define ourselves and therefore limit ourselves based on whether it's a certain circumstance or a certain set of circumstances, that we are that. This is who we are. I am a spender. I am dependent. I am a failure. Based on a certain event or a series of events. And so my response is, you are more, regardless of whatever the current circumstance may be. You are more. And it could be that you've hit an amazing win. You are more.
Raise your hand, guys, if you have any questions for Martha. We've got 12 minutes. If you guys want to ask something, please do. Martha, when I went through your book, well, first off, I love the fact you have the book club and you have the quiz and you have even in the book club, like if I wanted to take this and talk to Marcel about it every day, you have a whole list of questions here that could help us to reflect on And I feel like a lot of what's in your book is helping us reflect on like what our upbringing, what our words have been and are, to allow us to evolve into a place where the emotions are more positive. Is that a good kind of like review of your work?
Yeah, I think so. Emotionalizing to the positive is central to the work that I do,
Yeah.
right? So emotions are especially in finances, this is the thing that is so often used against us. You're emotional. What does that mean? You're irrational, right?
Mm.
And so from an investing standpoint, for example, we have emotional buying and emotional selling. Either way, you're irrational. So emotions are a liability. I believe, however, that emotions are your greatest asset. That is something that truly belongs to you. And so that's the piece that you are in control of. But so often, something or someone else is taking up that space. And so redefining that, connecting to yourself and your story, allows you to redefine what that experience meant. Instead of it being the ceiling that held you down, it becomes the platform that you stand on.
How does someone start that process of redefining their story?
That's why I wrote the book.
Yep.
You redefine your story by exploring your story. That's the only way you are going to be able to connect with what you learned, so you can unlearn that and make the space for what it is you want.
Hmm.
Right? How can we remove that ceiling if we aren't truly aware that it's there? Right?
Hmm.
How can we triumph if all we know is the pain, the difficulties, the struggle? And that's in every walk of life. I mean, there was one person I was working with that very successful, materially successful, and hit major blockades. So the answers didn't come from sharing how to do this, how to plan. It came from asking why. To financially succeed, we don't start from the how. That's what we've been taught, right? And we start with the why. That's what the work I do does. That's what the book does. Helps you understand your own whys. When you're going on that run, the best answers come from the best questions to yourself. We've got to learn to ask ourselves those questions.
All right, let's go over some. What are some questions? What are some questions, Martha? What?
Don't leave me hanging, friends. I love questions.
No. What I meant was like, what are some questions that we can ask ourselves to help us
I thought you were
understand,
putting it
like,
out to the
our
group.
relationship with money? Yeah.
So, but I'm going to actually answer
Katrina.
this question.
Katrina, go ahead.
I just want to say, Martha, thank you so much for coming up on this call. I want to tell you that your background is so beautiful. I love how you decorated everything and your earrings matching the art on the background, the beautiful manicure, everything is so perfect. I keep looking at you. And I feel very inspired. You look like a true lady. So I want to thank you for that. This is really makes me feel really good, because I feel like I'm just, wow, how come did I come like this on this call? So thank you for that. It's really beautiful. I see all the details you put in that, like every little detail. It's very beautiful. And another thing that you're saying about the question why, and right now I'm at the point in my life where I think that usually I ask myself, not why, I ask, what do I want? What do you think
Mhm.
about that? When I ask myself, what do I want? And I just go to it, not even questioning why. What do you think about that?
I love that question. The next question I'd love to suggest you ask yourself is, why do I want it? So from there, you're going to actually connect with your story and potential blocks. So one of the things that I've seen is, and asking yourself more than once, why do I want it? Because one of the things that I've seen is, well, do I want this to spite someone? Do I want this because someone told me I can't? Do I want this because, right? Any number of things. That's going to allow you to connect with any of the life experiences, great, good, not as good, that led to it, right? Because then you can choose what it is that's serving you and redefine what it is that isn't, right? Because
Kind of mean like that I would have a better picture of what exactly I want, like more details.
it's going to come to that. It's going to come to that, but it's also going to help you with who's in control, right? So have you ever gotten a no in your career?
No, in my career, like understanding my field that I chose, yeah, I feel like I have.
The reality is, I want to say all of us have in some way, shape, or form, but here to make it, perhaps more politically correct, I'm going to say the vast majority of us have gotten a no. Well, sometimes when we're asking ourselves, why do I want this? Some of those, for example, experiences come up, right? And I could say, well, I want this to spite someone, or, or why do I want this? And a certain feeling comes up. Why do I feel that way? Right? And the life experience or experiences that led to that are going to come up. So it's another way of being conscious of your unconscious, right?
Yeah.
Becoming aware of your true why. And then as you connect with that further, it's going to become supercharged fuel in a lot of ways, right? And that translates into financial results. Whether that's the way you're not just, bringing in money with purpose, right? You're growing it as well, right? And then you're enjoying, you're setting those goals. The more connected you are to what it is that you want and why it is that you want that, the more of your voice, your expression, right? You're expressing rather.
So Martha Adams, author of Cleopatra's Riches. I saw you have a relationship with Bob Proctor as well. Amazing human being. It's so cool that he wrote your foreword just before he passed. That's an amazing experience that you had. Bob is such a gifted, and I know you said he's a giver, I believe, which is so true. As we wrap up here, what are some indicators for us to understand if we should be integrating? I mean, it's like we're so willing to run so that we could feel better about our physical health. We're so, but things like going to see a therapist just because is something we don't do. Like having money mantras, even though they're so important, just because is something we don't often do. What are some indicators to help us become aware that these are things that we should be doing in our life?
Do you prioritize, or do you prioritize yourself? So everything that you talked about that we easily do is the things that people can see. I'm going to run, I'm going to lift, I'm going to have, you know, a great workout schedule because people can see the results of that. If I'm prioritizing myself, my well-being, my financial well-being, starting with my emotional well-being, that's the piece that isn't necessarily seen, but it is very much experienced, right? So focusing on your own experience. And here's a mantra for that I gave to actually a number of people that I've worked with, but there's one in particular that surfaces is, you know, because it's for me and that's okay. We prioritize, you know, everyone else in a lot of ways, and prioritizing yourself, your emotional well-being, which leads to your mental health, which then leads to your true physical health as well, right? It's all connected, is then how you achieve comprehensive wellness.
Right on. I love that. I know we're wrapping up right now. I just quickly pulled up my phone because I'm looking at the quiz I took of yours. And I was shocked. I mean, talk about, like, I think I just answered my own question as well. To parallel what you said, one way you can become aware is by answering that quiz on your website.
Yeah. Yeah. So I created
Like,
that for a reason. There's a lot of stories and experiences, and the more honest we are with ourselves. So what I'm seeing there, even in looking at you and your response, your facial response, is, you know, the more aware we allow ourselves to be aware of ourselves, right? The more that we're not only going to discover, the more we're going to become.
I'm looking at some of these answers I have. For you, retail therapy means it's a trap. Watch out. How do you make your buying decisions? Window shopping. When you buy something for yourself, how do you feel about it most often? I feel guilty regularly buying things for myself. When talking about managing money, I feel judged. What does the concept of saving money feel like? Sacrifice. It takes away from my lifestyle. If you go to a financial institution, how do you feel? I prefer to keep my own counsel. How do you feel when you talk about money with your spouse or friends? Taboo. You know, like, if you just go through those answers, it becomes very clear that there's some digging to be done that'll really impact my life. And I'm sure a lot of us get that as well. Why do you do the book club?
Why do I do it?
Yeah.
You know, you said something earlier, and you said, do you ever feel alone? You asked me. You know, I know what it's like to feel alone. And in the financial conversation, far too many of us feel alone. We feel that we're the only ones that had that experience. We feel, and we're taught to feel, that it's the conversation that separates us, that defines the haves, the have-nots, the can'ts from the cans. And when we focus on the human experience, that's something that brings us together. And in a lot of ways, connects us in a way that platforms us. It takes it from comparison to inspiration. That's why I'm passionate about bringing people together. That's why I created the book club. Okay.
Right on, Martha Adams. Thank you for writing Cleopatra's Riches. Thank you for coming in and talking with us today. It's a 3-hour read, so it's perfect. You go into community, you go into your environment, you go into your upbringing. part of the reason why you're in this position today is because your upbringing was that you're a descendant of Cleopatra, and so you always had that anchor,
Mhm.
that I am more anchor. So thank you for writing what you've written for us, and thanks for joining us to talk about it today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm gonna